Hi everyone, welcome to Finca Luna Nueva. So my name is Roy Ving, and today with me our friend Carlos Rodriguez. So he's the man behind the camera. And today we want to share with you this little farm tour. And of course we want to make it safe. So we're keeping our distance, and I hope that you are following these directions back home too. And so today we want to share with you about regenerative agriculture. So before we start talking about that, I would like to share a little bit of the history of Finca Luna Nueva. So Finca Luna Nueva started in 1994 as an organic farm. So years later, we started to do biodynamic, and now we have transitioned it to what is called regenerative agriculture. So regenerative agriculture is designed to rebuild and restore the ecosystems, especially by putting the carbon back into the newly created soil. Um, Everything we do here in Finca Luna Nueva is seen through the carbon lenses. We're not just growing cacao, we're not just growing turmeric. What we're doing here is creating a solution for the climate change crisis. So, and also we are increasing the food quality, security, and also we are just being a model for the farmers in the tropics. And today we're gonna take a little walk through the farm, and we will see some of the systems we're using in order to regenerate the soils and in order to regenerate the ecosystems of this beautiful tropical rainforest. So this is one of the systems that we're using for regeneration, and this system is called agroforestry. So agroforestry is a combination, and what we're doing here is taking the structure of the rainforest, as you can see to my left hand side, and then we're combining this with the food production in the farm. So in the crops that we're using here, number one is gonna be cacao. So this is one of the cacao trees. So we have about 300 cacao trees around this area, and we're trying to grow this cacao in order to mimic what the rainforest looks like. So in the rainforest, you can find an structure. So for example, you're gonna find about 20 meters, 30 meters above the ground, you're gonna find the upper canopy. Then about 10 meters, you're gonna find the lower canopy. And down here where we're standing is called the understory. So we're trying to make these three different layers that are found in the forest happen inside of our farm. So indeed, we're combining different crops. For example, we have some very tall trees that you will see in the back. So some trees like the tropical cedar, like laurel, some different species of ficus. So some of these species has been planted, some of these species has been just coming out from the rainforest. So they are forming the upper canopy, which is by the way very important. So this is gonna help us to control the shades, control also the temperature for the cacao plantation. In this case, cacao will be forming the lower canopy, in we're gonna try to keep different species of plants. For example, if you walk through, you're gonna find plants like bananas, you're gonna find plants like rambutan, you're gonna find allspice, nutmeg. So we're trying to keep a very big diversity, and that's another thing we can find from the forest. So in the forest you can find up to 475 species of plants per square hectare. So we're trying to keep this diversity found in that rainforest inside of the farm. So down here at the understory, you're gonna find different plants. For example, you can find plants like Quasi Amara, Hombre Grande. So along with the cacao trees, so we also have like different plants like Sarsaparilla, Smilax sp, which is one of the species. So in this is considered like another layer. So these plants are gonna be growing on the trees. So you can grow different type of plants like squash, like cohombro, and other type of plants that will just climb on the trees. In this is very efficient in terms of production. So because one of the things that we need for this kind of farming is to be able to produce enough food, and with this kind of system, so we can produce food on all of these different layers. So which means that the food production can be increased by adopting regenerative agriculture into your farm. So in here we have a little termite nest. So termites are really important for this kind of farming in the tropics, especially because termites, they can be really, really regenerative. So in fact, the termites are gonna be feeding on dead wood, so they will be feeding on the dead weight of the tree. They will break down the wood and they will turn it into this nest that it has an interesting texture. So it's like a hard paper. So you can see it on my hand right now. But this structure has a lot of carbon that the termites can actually take from the wood on the trees. So, and then the termites will turn it into their homes. This home will be getting very heavy and very big at some point, or by different factors, it will fall down to the ground, and then there's gonna be an interesting relationship happening. So there's gonna be a bunch of microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, that will take that nest from the termites and will degrade it and break it into new soil. So the termites are helping us to keep the regeneration happening, since they're feeding on the wood and they turn it into something that the microorganisms can work with and then convert it into brand new soil. So this kind of farming, our main concern is not just to grow the crops, it's not just to get food, it's also to make the soil grow. And the way we make the soil grow is by putting the carbon back where it belongs. So most of the carbon that we have right now stuck in the atmosphere and is causing the climate change, this carbon belongs to the ground. So that's where it should be, and that's where the carbon can be really beneficial. So through these kind of systems, it also helps to put a lot of this carbon back to the ground through the photosynthesis process of the plants. So the plants are taking carbon, they're taking water within the sunlight, and they convert it into sugar, to carbohydrates, and then these sugars will travel down the tree, and the trees and all the plants around here, they have a symbiosis, they have a relationship within microorganisms underground. So microorganisms will bring minerals, will bring nutrients, and in exchange they will get the sugars from the tree. And this relationship helps us to put the carbon that was previously up on the atmosphere back to the ground. So the more plants, the more microorganisms, so the more carbon sequestration that we can do. And this is something that is always very exciting. So it's almost like a magical relationship, if you want to see it like that, happening between the soil, between the microorganisms, between the plants. And this is precisely what we want to happen all over the farm. All right, so we're gonna take a little walk this way, and here to the left-hand side. So our farm queue is getting this area ready for planting vanilla. So later I'm gonna show you vanilla plants. And this area will be hosting about 700 vanilla plants. Vanilla is very expensive, and especially because there is a lot of labor behind vanilla. So I don't know if you knew it, but the pollination of vanilla has to be done by hand. So from March to June, every single morning, well, we're gonna have to go and check out the flowers. If you find the flowers open, then we're gonna have to carefully open the pollinary sacs and then do the pollination by hand. So, and that's why it's really expensive. And well, later we're gonna see the vanilla a little bit closer. So follow me, we're gonna take a little walk. As we're walking, so you will hear different sounds. For example, that sound over there that we hear is coming from a very beautiful bird. It's called black-throated wren. And then in the back, I'll make some silence so you can hear it. The snapping finger sound that you hear in the back, it's coming from the white-collared manakin. And birds are really important for these kind of systems. So since the birds, they can help us to do some pest controlling, so they can feed on insects and crickets. And well, anyway, so Luna Nueva is a really, really special location for bird watching. So if you guys like bird watching, if you're planning on doing bird watching in Costa Rica, so you can come here and visit us in Finca Luna Nueva. So far we have listed about 400 or so species of birds. So, and we are connected through a natural corridor, through a biological corridor to the Children's Rainforest. And so we have a really high transit of wildlife. So especially birds that are coming from the highlands, and they stay at Finca Luna Nueva, or they go through Finca Luna Nueva. So follow us, and then you will see when's gonna be the best time for birding. And of course, we're gonna be glad to have you here and then show you that part of the Costa Rica's wildlife, which is really, really interesting. So there is another interesting plant over here. So this is one of my favorite ones. It's called katuk. So, and the reason why I like katuk, first of all, the flavor. It's really tasty. And katuk, it's a plant which is really high on protein content. So it's a really good option for vegan and vegetarian people. So you can have katuk in your diet. So it's gonna be a really good source for vegetal protein. And I like the way that katuk it's reproduce. So take a look. So we just got a stick, and all we gotta do to reproduce katuk will be to stick it on the ground. And that's it. So in a couple of weeks, we're gonna have roots. We're gonna have some sprouts, and then in about 3 or 4 months, so this katuk plant could be big enough to be harvested. So katuk is one of the perennial plants that you can find at Finca Luna Nueva, and most of the plants that we're growing here are perennials. So as you can see, we're trying to use plants that last a little longer. So conventional farming is based on like annual crops. So every year you're gonna have to go through like the process of like cutting down, like the process of tillage, like fires, which is what people usually does. And this is very stressing for the soil. So and this causes a lot of like carbon emissions. So a very big percentage of the carbon emissions on the world are from farming. So the farming practices that we're using can be a little bit aggressive. So with this kind of like a farming where we're based on perennials and we're protecting the soil, so we're actually doing the opposite. Instead of letting the carbon go out of the soil, we're making it go back to where it belongs. And around here, we're gonna have some other things that you can see. For example, we have trees like Centolla, which is in the Annona family. Very tasty and very smelly when it's ripe. So we're not in season for it, by the way, so you're not gonna find the fruit. And this is one of the plants that we get all over the farm. This is called Mexican sunflower, and the Mexican sunflower, we're gonna be using it for like biomass production. So we can let it grow around the crops, and then we can chop it down, then use it for mulching. So that's the main use of this plant. And also, these plants are very good because they attract a lot of bees. And by the way, so we have a little neighborhood over here. So if you take a look, we have little huts and boxes. So that's where we're keeping our stingless bees. And let's get a little closer. There's a colony right here. There's a little colony of stingless bees right here. So you can see the wax tube at the entrance, and then you can see a couple of them right there. They're just building up this tube, and they're just making their colony inside of this box. So the idea will be that we get enough colonies that we can harvest and we can commercialize this honey. So, well, of course, you know, we mainly want to use it in our kitchen. So, by the way, so if you have been with us already, so you know that we have a really nice restaurant, and a lot of the food that we serve at the restaurant will be produced in the farm, or is producing the farm. So, a couple of years, so we hope we can have this very nice and tasty and medicinal honey from stingless bees served on the restaurant. All right, amigos. So we are at the Caribbean slope and tropical rainforest of Costa Rica. So you can imagine that we have a lot of rainfall right here, and this is amazing. Take a look to my right hand side, and look at how everything has grown, so it's amazing. Last time I walked through here, it was a lot smaller, and probably you already know that we've been out of work for a couple of weeks since there has been an emergency happening. Well, this is affecting everyone around the world, I know, but in Costa Rica, so we've been like not working. So the farm or the hotel has been closed for a couple of weeks, but nature doesn't stop, and this is amazing. So this is a proof that nature doesn't stop, and another reason why we should be using regenerative agriculture. As you can see, we're not making it any working here. We're not making any maintenance, and nature just wants to keep growing up. So, and this is something not possible when you're doing conventional farming, but regenerative agriculture allows you to have this energy. I like to say this is like the energy of nature. So nature wants to thrive. So that's the energy, and this is happening when you are doing this kind of regeneration. And here we have some more of the crops that you can find at the farm. So this is vanilla right here, Vanilla planifolia. That's a species we have right here, and this is a young plant, so it's just starting to grow on this Erythrina tree. So by the way, Erythrina is one of the nitrogen fixing plants that we use. And so we also have another crop right here, these big beans you can see. This is called Canavalia. So Canavalia, well, it's edible, but here we mainly use it as a nitrogen source for our plants. And this is how we use it. So for example, we can take a couple of Canavalia sticks and we'll chop it. So this is gonna be giving us nitrogen, that this nitrogen can be absorbed by the tree. So at the same time, we are preventing the weeds from growing around the Erythrina and growing around the vanilla. And so we also are creating a lot more moisture in here, so which is great, because that way we don't have to worry about bringing water to the plant. So the moisture created here will be absorbed by the plants as well. So we're doing three things on one single move. So we have vanilla there, but we also have another plant that has these climbing habits, and this is black pepper. So these over here are black pepper. So you can see a couple of ripe peppercorns right there. So mostly harvested when it's green for black pepper. So, and we can do it the exact same thing with the black pepper. So here are some bigger peppercorns that are really spicy, and this peppercorn, it's a little bit stronger than regular pepper. So this is organic pepper, so that's why it's stronger. Usually organic food has more like flavor, has more intensity in the flavor. So I really like it. So indeed, when you come to Finca Luna Nueva, you have to try our black pepper. So, and along the side, you can also see different crops that we're growing. So we got there some hibiscus, some Jamaican roses. So you can see all the Mexican sunflowers. And down here we're gonna be looking also for other crops. So this is another of the crops that you often find in Finca Luna Nueva. This is called Chaya Mansa. So it's another of the perennials that we use a lot in our restaurant. So Chaya Mansa, it's really high on mineral content. So it's commonly known as Mexican tree spinach. But this plant can have actually higher contents of minerals like iron, so higher calcium content than spinach does. So, and it's perennial, so it's a really good option to use. Same as katuk that we saw before. You cut it, stick it on the ground, and then you will have a new plant. And around here, so we have some of the bananas. So we have some small pineapple plants over there. And we're looking here for other plants. Well, this one was recently harvested. As you can see here, some ginger. So there was a ginger plant here that a couple days ago the crew harvested. So so we're gonna put it over there, and we're gonna look for some of the plants. So Finca Luna Nueva was really famous in the past because of the really big production of ginger and turmeric that we were doing, and so that's why you're gonna find ginger like all over the place. So there is another relative, another plant on the ginger family that we use a lot here. It's called galanga or galangal. So which is really spicy too. Has a really nice taste. And the greatest thing is that it's like soluble in water. So if it's getting too hot, so you can have a sip of water or just your saliva will stop the spice, but it's really tasty. Okay, amigos, we have a beautiful plant right here too. So this one is known as the miracle fruit. And look at this beautiful berry right here. And it's called miracle fruit because this plant can twist the flavor in your tongue, especially when you have sour flavors. If you eat that little berry and then you take something very sour, like say for example, let's say you take a fruit like bilimbi, which is back here. This one right here. So let's say that you take the miracle fruit and then you take bilimbi. Bilimbi is very famous. It's on the star fruit family, and it's famous because it's very sour. So, but that fruit over there can turn the sourness of this bilimbi fruit into something sweet. So that's precisely why it's called miracle fruit. So it has a glycoprotein that blocks the sour receptors on your tongue and link the sweet receptors. So blocks the sours and make the sweets even more sweet. So that's how the miracle fruit works. And we have quite a few trees around here. And this is a fruit that will be coming on the dry season. So which is where we are right now. We're just in the middle of the dry season. And that's why we have some of the fruits right now. But this is something that the birds, they really like to eat. So that's the reason why the whole plant or the whole bush is not covered on fruits. Because probably the birds, since we're not here, we're not working all the time, they are just making a big feast out of this plant. All right, amigos, and this is gonna be our last stop. So, because we only have like 30 minutes to share with you about the farm, and well, we have one of the last things that we will see. These friends over here are a nice example of jackfruit. So jackfruit is one of the largest fruits that you can find in the farm. Very tasty, very sweet, and also when you come to Finca Luna Nueva, ask for the jackfruit seeds hummus, which is something really tasty as well, and it's something we prepare using the jackfruit produced organically at the farm. So with this we want to say goodbye and thanks for watching this video. So I know that you cannot go out of home right now, but I hope that you felt that you were working with us on this video, and I hope to see you soon. So we are all hoping that this emergency stops in a couple of weeks, so and then we can start sharing again. So from all of the family of Finca Luna Nueva, well, we're gonna be waiting for you, amigos, and well, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. So thank you very much for watching us.